All right, everybody, welcome to this week's episode of the Calling All Heroes Comics Podcast. I'm George, and I'm joined by Wolz.
Hey.
And Gary.
Hello.
And this week we are without Tim, but we're going to do our best to get along without him and kick things off. So what's going on this week, guys?
All I can think about is Jack Kirby.
His birthday's in a couple days, right?
Next week. I think it's the 28th. I know it's the end of August. He would have been 100 years old if he were to be alive. And I've just been reminiscing. I've been looking through a lot of old stuff and looking at old covers and things. I got my old Demon #1 out and looking at the old monster books and got a couple other things. An old Black Magic from the 50s. Gary and I were here talking. I really like all his styles. I like that loose style, the older stuff. But I also really love, too, the beautifully tight, wonderful, FF stuff when, he was doing with Joe Sennett. That stuff, I think we've all discussed that. It's probably his strongest run, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
And but I like all the styles. Some people have a preference. There's some stuff in the DC universe maybe I wasn't super high on, but I love the Demon series. I love all 16 issues. I go through. I've reread it numerous times, and I just love it. Of course, I love the old monster books too. But that run on FF though is probably, I think, maybe the greatest run on comic books. Really,
yeah. The
whole Inhumans thing, Galactus, Surfer, that whole run there. I think he and Joe Sennett. It was like boom, 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 boom. They're beautiful, all of them, like pieces of art.
You won't find me arguing that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's DC. The art was still spot on. He had Mike Royer and
Mike Royer did the Demon.
Vince Coletta, I think, did some of the early Commandos.
Yes, you're right.
So I think the art wise, but I think story, he was just all over the place. And there again, he might have done. It's the first time that I've really thought about this, but we were talking about Image when they first started out, where everyone was in spandex, Youngblood, Wildcats. There was no human beings in it, and that's why. Looking back, it really doesn't hold up. The best thing about Marvel was they put superheroes in the real world,
right?
And not that DC didn't, but I think that's what Stan Lee did so well when he allowed these people or even had ideas or stories. But Spider-Man was still just a human being who had superpowers, and he was surrounded by human beings. And Kirby, when he went to DC, like I said, I've never thought about this, but from Commandy to Demon to Forever People. A lot of this is new guys. It's pretty far off stuff.
Yeah.
Where humans, there was interaction and relationships with all these people, but there wasn't a whole lot of humans about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. The Demon of those the DC run though, the Demon for me when I read it, it's not really as jumbly as some of the other ones. It's somewhat more consistent. The story does follow along. there's an origin tale in it, and it sort of follows along, and other characters are introduced. There are some human characters in it, obviously. Some of the his sidekicks and helpers and things like that. Raj and it's cool. But I thought that was maybe the most consistent, because some of them are sort of scattery. The FF stuff, the storyline, it fit. Everything flowed. Even
when he did Jimmy Olsen, it was a strange book. And I think that's his whole DC run. It's just so different from anything that he worked on. Even Thor with Asgard and everything, but you still had, was it Donald Blake? You still had, his connection to the Earth.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But when he went to DC, he just really got some crazy ideas. Some of them worked, some of them didn't. I think any critics will tell you that.
Sure.
Anybody's read them. But, they were just strange. A lot of them were very strange.
The thing, too, with Marvel, I think that made the superheroes that much more super, in addition to being around people, is real places. It's not Gotham City, it's New York City.
New York.
And there's something about that, too. It's like these extraordinary things happening in a place that we can all identify with and know that exists.
Exactly.
It's a dangerous thing because you'll get caught up in time and place whenever you're writing it. Whenever you put Nixon or somebody or Reagan into a book.
Right.
Sort of like on The Dark Knight Returns, you can tell that's Ronald Reagan that is talking to Superman. So it does place. You have David Letterman and Dr. Ruth and all them in there. They changed the names for them, but you can tell who they are. So sometimes it's like I always said with the Monty Python. We talked about that before, where it's one of those things where if you're not British and you're not from the 70s, you have no idea what they're talking about.
Right.
So some of the references can get a little dangerous because they become dated. But putting them in New York and Chicago and all that, and, Florida or West Coast or whatever, it was always much better because you're always sitting there going, Gotham, is that Chicago? Where are we talking? Is that New York?
Yeah.
Right.
Metropolis is obviously New York per se.
Right.
I would say.
It creates a little more of a timeless quality, but at the same time, like Dark Knight, I always look at that like now. I think it was done so smoothly. It's a period piece. This is a story that just takes place then. I don't think it necessarily feels dated.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. But I'm just saying you're walking a fine line when you're making references that are to the people that are popular now.
Sure, no, I
like
agree.
if all of a sudden you did a Beyonce reference or something, where she's putting a singer on the stage in a comic book and it looks just like her, or Britney Spears or any of those people, or Maroon 5, people
right.
that are, any of the rappers and stuff that are big. It's just going to be a reference that in 10, 20 years people are going to be, I have no idea who this person is.
Right.
I'm going to have to Google this.
Yeah, the first one I was thinking about was 9/11 when they did the 9/11 books, and I mean, obviously that has a historical thing, and it's more than just a singer or whatever. But yeah, you're looking at that book, and it's like, man, people aren't going to know. Well, that whole idea, man, comic books. It's almost like you can read our history through comic books.
Yeah.
Well, and I like that. I totally agree with that because I always felt that I was part of it because they did identify with realities to me, like New York City or something that it didn't have a stage name, so to speak.
Sure.
It made it feel to me like even though it's a comic book, it is definitely rooted in a reality that I understand and can be a part of.
Right.
Well, the Planet or the Bugle, either one of them. That's the New York Times.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right. Would that be fair?
No, I can't argue.
Parker.
That's like in Superman 2 when Superman's fighting General Zod, and they're like flying through, and the Statue of Liberty's there. Like, you guys aren't even pretending. You're calling this Metropolis. The Statue of Liberty is right there.
Right. Yeah, you get into like Commandy, where he's the last human. When you have dogs and tigers and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it becomes a bizarre. But still, the relationship between the factions there, whether they're tigers or dogs or cats or whatever they are and stuff, it's all the same.
Yeah.
They're still at war. They're still fighting. Their interactions all the same. They're just human beings, or they're just beings that look different. That's all.
In Commodity, I like that one guy that was sort of like a Wyatt Wingfoot kind of guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, what was it? I can't remember his character. Do you remember his character name? I just sort of liked him.
No.
You know what I'm talking about?
He could change. He'd become metal.
Yeah, he could. Yeah, his skin. Yeah, that's right. I sort of like that guy for some reason.
It's been a long time.
I know I haven't dug those up in a long. I look through them every now and then because towards the end, I think Joe Kubert did some of the covers and things like that, and somebody took over the art too. Because I have one that Ernie Chan signed because he did the cover to it. I mean, because it started out as Kirby, but other artists took it all. Because it went 70 issues, something like that. First come on.
Kirby dropped out 34, 35.
Right, but it went into the 70s, maybe.
Yeah.
Any rate, I brought that up because it's really cool to me. He would be 100 years old. He fought in World War II. My father did. I've idolized Kirby since I was a kid, and I think he put a lot of his. Well, he was a deeply religious man, and he was a deeply patriotic man, and he put forth a lot of that in his characters with sincerity, not as like a in your face. He did it with sincerity because I think that's what he believed in, and I really like what he stood for. And it's important to me because my dad was a World War II veteran. There's a lot of things, but I admire him probably more than any of them, just because of who he was and what he did and what he contributed to the comic world. It can never be. I don't think it'll ever be surpassed. Ever.
Right.
Well, him and Stan Lee, both.
Yeah, sure.
I don't think either one of them. I mean, you can throw Ditko and some other legendary people in there, but there's no one that stands above those two.
Oh yeah.
Whenever it comes to contributions.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't think those two are better together than apart on almost anything.
And there again, I've been I could be critical of Stan Lee also. I'm usually not trying to be a negative Nancy, but the stuff he tried to do, when they tried to come back, and Stan Lee wrote this back in the 90s.
Ravage, 2099.
Oh,
horrible.
Some of that stuff just didn't happen.
Yeah.
There's nothing that it's been so long that in retrospect that we can sit back and look. It's like no one has ever said anything about these books that needs to be read. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Time will always sit there and say, how'd you miss that? Or this is really grown in time, and this is really good. I don't know how it got overlooked, but time will tell you. We missed the boat on this, and no one's ever said anything about.
Right.
And I think that's what I was talking about with Kirby. There's some great ideas, and the books are really cool looking. The DC Kirby books, but I don't think there's anything that's a must read.
Right. I like
maybe new guys the pack people talk about, but I've read it and it's not.
Like I said, I like the Demon. I like the Demon storyline. I'm fine with it. It's not the best of the best, but I like it. And I do agree with you because I've softened on Stan Lee because I used to grumble all the time.
Yes,
I've defended Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko since the beginning of time. But I've softened. I've given Stan a little more credit, and he probably certainly deserves it.
Yeah. Hey, we did have a question. Could you guys? This is from Jonathan Weaver, by the way.
Hey, John.
Hey, John. What's up?
The question being, could you guys recommend a comic or storyline that someone might want to read that does not cost an arm and a leg? I'd like to read something solid that maybe doesn't cost more than $1 or $1.50 a copy. Any recommendations?
Wow.
I would go to a trade paperback if I was going to go to anything.
Yeah.
And obviously just get The Dark Knight Returns if you want to read a really cool story.
Yeah.
That's one of the classics.
I was thinking of it. I mean, and maybe that's all you need to know. I was thinking of it like if you're trying to start your comic collection and you want to get a bunch of comics without spending a bunch of money. There was some Alpha Flight stuff I thought that was good, and it's $1 a copy.
Mm-hmm.
You can pick up Alpha Flight for $1 a copy. Avengers West Coast. I was reading a little bit of that stuff.
Oh yeah,
hey, that's good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's about $1.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would say. I mean, those are two that I would pick.
Gotcha.
G.I. Joe, another one, about $1.
Well, it's neat. It's neat. It's happening right now. I mean, those dollar books, the Kirby books. I mean, if you wanted to get some classic stuff, look at some classic stuff that that we all loved. Right there for $1, you can get them for $1 a piece. That's a great deal.
Yeah.
I mean, those would be things that you wouldn't spend a lot of money on. They got the Thor and Inhumans and all those. I think they're really cool. So those would be things. Yeah. I'm trying to think of something else that you can find usually in I found a lot of. I'm a big Defenders fan, and some of the Defenders are on there. You can find some of the latter ones. They're really cool. Don Perlin was drawing them, and I thought he did a fantastic job. But those are ones I've found that you can get them in a 50-cent dollar bin. Some the early issues of Defenders obviously cost a lot more, but they're towards the end of the run it was pretty interesting. I really liked that period of the Defenders too, when the newer characters were in there, like when Gargoyle was introduced and Hellcat and stuff like that. I liked that. I thought that was a really cool book, and a lot of times you can, outside the first 20-30 issues, they're pretty inexpensive.
Yeah. Well, going back to what you were saying about the True Believers, like Captain America and Devil Dinosaur and the first Avengers. I mean, there's a lot of good ones. Black Panther.
$1.
Yeah, $1, and it's in great shape. Inhumans #1. I got a couple here.
Yeah.
Thor versus Hulk.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all really good, solid stuff.
But I just wait for you to have a sale here. Just come in and randomly put. We shop the same way as John would. We just whatever looks interesting.
Sure.
We'll look at the cover, see if it is attractive, then we'll sit there and scan through it. And like, these characters, and that's how you become. All three of us probably have different collections. I know per se you don't have a collection, or I should
Yeah.
Now you have a whole store, but Wolz and I will cross paths and stuff and come across things that we both like, but not necessarily not some of the new stuff that we read.
Right.
So I would just come in and just start looking around. Taking suggestions, looking at trade paperbacks.
Yeah.
I like
That's a great point.
I like the direction that the new Venom's going in. I think it's really cool. And it's cover price whatever now. And, from 150 on, I've been reading. I've really enjoyed it. So, I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, obviously you're not going to find any new books other than these reprint books that are $1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is, they're $2 to $3 a piece and stuff to start.
Yeah, but a great point about coming in. Whether John, I don't know exactly where you live. We saw him on Twitter, so if you live here, obviously you're more than welcome. Wherever you're at, go to your local comic store and just look through the back issues because you'll find things that you dig. And I have books in here that are 50 cents and up.
Sure.
So it's
every comic shop has back orders where you can get them for a couple of bucks.
Sure.
In a negotiation. Look at something that appeals to you eye-wise and go, give it a shot. And if you spend a couple dollars on it, it's not nearly as big of a disappointment as if you're starting to spend big money on stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, as far as something new, you guys are saying like for $2.99, I don't think there's a better deal right now than Spawn for $3.
Amen.
That's what's up.
Amen. New storyline's awesome.
And I follow that up closely with Walking Dead right now, and again, $2.99. And then probably my third one at that $3 price point would be Savage Dragon. Those 3 books, you've got $9 in it, and you've got all 3 of those books come out a different week. So, you got a book a week there.
Yeah, and opposed to the way Image used to be in the beginning, the Spawns are dead on. They come, remember how Image used to be, you sort of wait a little bit?
Yeah.
Not Spawn every time, consistent, boom, boom, boom. It's out there.
And I'm not going to speak for you as a retailer, but money talks. When I go to convention, it's always, hey, I got $28 worth of books here. How about 23? You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
I got cash in hand.
Yeah.
They come into your store and stuff, and they say, hey, George, I got $100 worth of books. 70 do it. That's going to be your call.
Right.
But always.
Well, and
bring some money, get ready to spend.
I'm not the best retailer either because when somebody comes up with $100 worth of books, I'm usually giving them I want to give them a price that's like, you know what? Thank you for coming here today.
Sure.
Well, obviously, I'm talking back issues, which hopefully that's what Jonathan's talking about. Because new books off, they're $3.
Well, I end up. $2.99 is that's the that's the.
Well,
that's the low stand. That's the lowest you can go. I guess.
And just again, this doesn't affect you guys. You guys being people that are buying comic books off the shelf, but as a retailer, like Dark Horse just kills you. I can't really. That's why you never see too much guesswork in the world of Dark Horse. There's some books they have that are $3.99 cover price and it cost me $3.09 to get it here.
Yeah.
Now that means if I buy 5 of them and sell 4 of them, I even. You know what I mean? I make up for the one that's still sitting there.
Why is that?
It's just their breakdown. It's based on how much you spend, like in each.
Just for Dark Horse or Diamond?
No, just for Dark Horse. Yeah, no, because they break them down like if you spend a certain amount, like if for Marvel you'll get a better deal if you were hit a certain level. DC a better deal. There's a base discount you get, but it's based on the publisher.
That's disappointing.
Yeah, it used to be the more you bought, the more Diamond would just cut it right across the board.
Right.
That's not how it is now.
Yeah. Interesting.
That's strange. I would have thought Diamond is just, you buy $1,000 worth of books. It's no matter where they're coming from.
Right. Well, and I don't want to get too much into the detail, but let's just say that on Marvel's is the best. DC is 5% less of a discount than Marvel's is, and Image is 10% less of a discount than Marvel's is, and then you get down to Dark Horse, and it's...
In Dark Horse, you basically have to sell all 5 copies of what you're speaking of.
Right. Well, that's why a lot of times if you come in here in this small area, you don't see Dark Horse books just sitting on the shelf.
Right. Because
I order them to order. If you say I need this Hellboy book, I'm ordering 1 unless you want it 2, and then I'm ordering 2. There's not 3 on the wall.
Yeah.
What about independents? How does that work?
They're usually a little better. They range between Marvel and DC. So
really,
yeah, yep. Now, I know with Marvel and DC, like once you hit that plateau that I'm at, if you spend more, it goes another 5%, but it's still 5% more than what each individual one had. So, just as an example, let's say you're getting 50% off the cover price of Marvel books, and you're getting 45% off the cover price of DC. If you are some big company and you buy more and more, then it might bump up to 55 off Marvel and 50 off DC. Not the same.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's disappointing about Dark Horse.
Yeah.
You can't make any money off of it.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Never heard that before.
Well, and it's a big part of it. I think it's like the tail wagging the dog because you have to order a certain amount to be able to hit the discount. Well, if the discount's so low that you can't roll the dice on ordering more stuff, how are you supposed to sell enough stuff to earn the better discounts?
Right.
You know? And I think that goes to the source of them not having a ton of mainstream stuff. I mean, if you think about it, outside of Hellboy, what's coming out every month that 5 out of 10 people in the general public would know about? I mean,
Star Wars.
Yeah. Some of their properties
but I
like
mean,
that.
Star Wars went to Marvel, so.
right, yeah, they don't have it.
Right.
Yeah, they don't have that, and IDW picked up a lot of the properties that they used to have.
Didn't it, like
Predator.
I was going to say the Predator and
Aliens.
That's what I remember. You know.
Yeah, and they used to have RoboCop, and now they don't have that. And
right.
Terminator. I mean, there was a lot of like movie properties that they took and ingeniously, I'm sure you guys know, like blended. When you have Terminator versus RoboCop, because they bought both properties and are allowed to put them together. Yeah. I mean, that's where Aliens versus Predator came from.
Right.
Nice.
So
what's this new metal you mentioned? I read the first issue.
Did you like it?
No.
This is where Tim comes in usually.
If Tim were here, he'd go, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, what'd you think?
To be perfectly honest with you, I haven't read that one yet. I read the one before it, Mage, like the one that leads into it. But yeah, I have one of them stashed back there.
I didn't read it, but I have to say, the presentation looked attractive to me. I mean, I saw it, you know.
It's Capullo and Snyder, which, like I said, which I've been touting the Court of Owls and stuff, which I thought was spectacular. But the only problem is I'm seeing the same thing with Snyder, and it's not a problem with Scott Snyder as the writer. Is all of a sudden Batman's been working on this thing forever, this antimatter black thing, whatever, and these metal gods or demons are going to come out of this and stuff. And it was the same thing with the Court of Owls, where there was something going on with Gotham, for decades, and Batman didn't see it and this and that, and even
hidden Illuminati.
Exactly, like these things that he's been trying to uncover, and he's going to the same thing with some big event with metal, and it involves Batman. He's been working on this for years, and I'm seeing a
parallel.
I'm seeing definitely a parallel. Yeah.
Did you like the big last page reveal?
It was disappointing.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it because we were saying, "Hey, there's a big last page reveal," or do you think it would have been better if, like, did I personally oversell it, or did you think that anything you read? Yeah. Is that what it was? Sorry, I was pretty stoked. Did you read it? Are you planning on reading it?
I am now. I'm watching you guys, and you're
like, I don't want to give. It came out 2 weeks ago, but I don't want to give away the ending if you're going to read it.
Go ahead. I don't care. You're not going to kill me.
Yeah, because I'm not understanding the reference of bringing him in.
Yeah, not yet, but he's.
Who is him? We talking about Adam Warlock?
No, I wish. Sandman. Neil
Oh.
Gaiman, Sandman, and Gaiman said that this is going to go throughout. Like it's an extended role. When I flipped that page, man, I was like, this is awesome. Yeah.
But you got you got like the Justice League and stuff, and they're going to the scientists or these secret things and this and that. I'm just not sure how. I'm not putting it down. I'm just saying I'm not sure how this is going to work.
I thought you were going to say Dead Man for a minute there, then we could start reanimating people again.
Yeah.
I was going to get really excited then. Yeah. Oh, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys can join in anytime you want.
Yeah.
Any questions, comments?
Yeah, we're airing live right now from Calling All Heroes Comics.
Hey, we've never done that before. Airing live.
But yeah, so I don't know.
I wonder how the Dream World's going to come into, obviously, which is Sandman's shtick.
Yeah, his deal, his gimmick.
Because, he's talking about the metal thing's right here in front of me. And you got these...
It's cool looking.
Whoops. You got these people that look like they're anywhere from Doomsday to Venom to Judge Death to all these people, and I'm not really sure.
One guy looks like the Executioner, like the...
Yeah, well, I guess, because of what I gathered from it, it's basically supposed to be these alternate universe versions of Batman, and then who can show up in each one of those worlds.
Right.
And so the thing was, to me, when I saw the Sandman, it wasn't just like, oh, that's really cool, it's the Sandman, but it's, okay, there's 5 offshoots of this. Who else is going to pop up? Who else is going to be brought into a multiverse situation? Who else can they... is Spider-Man going to be there? Because they can say that's the alternate universe? Who else is going to pop up?
And as always, the mess begins.
Yeah.
You call me skeptical. The mess is ready to
I love
begin.
it, man. I dig it.
Because everyone was so relieved when they did Crisis, the original, back in the 80s. and straighten up all this Earth 2 and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then they just started reversing all back again. Marvel does it, DC does it.
Well, the thing though about this though is I think it's a limited series, and as I understand it, it's not part of the regular thing. Like they're not running it through Detective and through Batman.
There again, my point's being made. I
look at that more like
that.
Dark Knight Returns. Like it's a completely separate entity, and it'll begin and end because it's a miniseries, and it's almost like a what if type.
Then it doesn't. Yeah, then it doesn't make a difference.
Right.
So when Sandman shows up, who cares? Because it's not in the real timeline.
I mean, and I see that. Like I say, like with
I'm going to spend $50 on this, and it's not going to be relevant to anything.
Well,
because they're not presenting it as an Elseworlds thing that I wasn't gathering that.
But what? I guess it's ultimately though. What are you looking to get out of it? You being any one of us.
It's a good story.
If it's a good story,
Yeah,
like I don't necessarily need an FF story to be part of the mythos.
I've always liked those stories that were sort of like this. Like we talked about this before, 4-parter, 5-parter, 6-parter. That sort of were self-contained, and just were around for Well, I mean, some of them also related to what was going on in the regular title, but sometimes I like those little offshoot stories. I think they're pretty cool. Yeah,
but it doesn't look like they're being sold as such.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I wonder.
This looks like a major crossover summer. Well, not a summer event, but you know what I mean.
Right.
This looks like anything else. Like, was it the Darkest Black Night or whatever it was, or
the Darkest Night?
Whatever the DC thing was.
Yeah.
The Generations. It's looking as they're trying to sell this as a mainstream book, and you're telling me that it's not in the continuum.
Well, I think they also want to be, I guess, competitive because these events that are happening in the Marvel universe, with everybody being reintroduced, the classic characters being reintroduced, things like that. I'm sure that they feel the strain too of having something that is, different and unique, and they want to, they want to have something that spurs people's interest. Because I'm very much interested.
But it won't matter because when it's all said and done, it doesn't change Detective, it doesn't change Batman title, it doesn't change any of them.
But, I mean, for the money, it's like if it's an entertaining story, does it have to? I mean, how important is that?
No, it doesn't. But it's like I said, when I come in here, I'm thinking it's a major crossover thing that DC in the regular series. That's what I'm looking. Whatever happens in there is going to have an effect upon the regular series.
Okay.
That's how I was looking at it. That's how I read it. And that's how it looks like it's being advertised. It's a big major comic event.
And that might be the case. Like I said, I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
It just seemed like for them to go out in all those directions, and they're not bringing it up in the other two titles yet. So
well, they've done that many times. I understand.
Yeah.
In the past, but yeah, if it's not actually having an effect, a ripple in the timeline of Superman and Wonder Woman and all those in the Justice League, then yeah, I'm just reading The Dark Knight Returns, which obviously is touted as one of the best comics of all time.
Right.
But it's not a real story. It's a made up story. 10 years after Batman retired.
None of them are real stories.
You guys. Yeah, no, I see what you're saying.
Bring on the dead man. I'm going to get inside you. I love this new series.
And, when it came to, things like Fantastic Four, if they did something that didn't count, I was immediately less interested.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't, and I totally see that. I just don't think everybody looks at it the way we are.
Yeah.
I think that there are people who say, well, you know what? It's like if you're buying the What If comic, that none of that counts, but why did it sell?
Well, Fantastic.
This is interesting.
The Fantastic Four spurred on the whole Marvel zombie thing. Out of the Unlimited series there. That's how that all started, basically.
Yeah, but Old Man Logan,
and I
he
thought
doesn't
that was
exist.
really cool.
Old Man Logan is wonderful, but I'm reading it as a
parallel universe, an alternate story.
Well, as a time, one of those Terminator things.
But the thing with Old Man Logan is how long does it have to go on, and how many things does it have to explore before it is in itself its own world, its own universe, And that's the thing with this. Let's just say that none of this has any effect on DC or on Detective Comics or Batman.
Right.
If that metal is successful, it's going to create its own, it's going to create its own branches and become a thing in and of itself.
Yeah. And that's cool.
Yeah.
So any listeners out there, straighten me out.
Hey, good luck.
Man,
we've been on it for about 30 years.
Oh, boy.
Help me out here.
I like that. He threw that out there. That's great. Straighten him up. We've been trying to straighten him up forever.
Hey, let me know whenever you guys are ready to roll.
I think we're good.
Okay.
All right, I was talking. We're discussing about the Sandman coming into the metal, which, like I said, I think is two different worlds. I don't think there's a problem with Batman and the Sandman crossing over. It's just the Justice League and the Sandman seems like a really strange team up.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
Whenever Alan Moore was doing Swamp Thing, they had a crossover with Batman. It was done very well, so it can be done. And like I said, I'm not going to shortchange Snyder, the writer, because like I said, I just read something that was spectacular with the Batman books. Mm-hmm. So we're going to have to see. It's. I was disappointed when you said about wait till you see the last page and it was Sandman, because I was more confused than anything. I'm not a huge Sandman fan, but I know people are just crazy about Neil's work, and it deserves to get the original run deserves to get the attention that it did. It practically put Vertigo.
Yeah. And it did so in the mid-'90s. Like, I was in high school, and I remember Sandman being kind of the hip thing. My excitement wasn't even so much that it's the Sandman, it's okay, if this is what's happening here, and I already know there's 5 offshoots of alternate realities, who else is showing up?
I'll tell you my excitement, because it was, for me, and I wasn't very much into the storyline, but at that time, Sam Keith did like the first 4 issues, and Sam was hot. I mean, that stuff was super cool. Kelly Jones worked on that book. For me, it was from an artistic standpoint. The storyline, I'll be honest with you, I looked at that book visually. I really did. When it first came out, I was like, man, because I loved the art that was being done. And to the point that Gary was talking about, the thing about writing too is, Alan Moore. I look back through the annals of comics, and I'm thinking that run on Swamp Thing, for me, was one of the best storylines, or just that carried through that book, that I've ever read in comics. And he introduced all kinds of characters in, like in the annals. He had the Demon came into that, and Deadman was in that, and Batman came into the regular series, and it worked really well, because I guess it certainly intermingled within that universe with all those characters. I just thought it was really cool. But the thing about that is it's Alan Moore. He's a brilliant writer. He's what he's doing now, don't know, but what he was doing back then, superlative. So, and of course the Watchmen too, but I think that Swamp Thing stuff, as far as comic book storylines, I can go back and reread that. I love looking at all of it. Introduce Constantine. There were so many cool things going on there. Yeah. Well, the
thing is, obviously with the 90s and the goth crowd and stuff, obviously I was in retail, we all were. We got a chance to see the dyed black hair, from in the mall and stuff, the teenagers and so the Sandman,
long trench coats.
Yeah.
That was all Sandman. Yeah. Whether the Sandman created all that.
Well, for me,
it wasn't, but it fit. But Sandman fit right in the 90s, and that whole, like I said, you didn't really hear of the goth. To us it's horror, but it was totally something different. We were just a bunch of nerdy kids who love old monster movies, but we didn't dress the part.
Right.
Does that make sense? We didn't think we were vampires. The shiny vampires.
I thought I was a vampire for some reason.
I have to say, though, because I was a little older than the kids in the mall at that point in time, and for me, the 90s and trench coats meant the Crow. Just throwing it out there.
Sure.
And
that's still an offshoot.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
But the Crow and the Sandman were the two very big things that people read. And like I said, Vertigo. And that's what I'm saying. There's something shiny happy about the Justice League.
Sure.
That does not come across. Like I said, if all of a sudden, I don't even know who it would be for Marvel, but you have an Avengers movie and all of a sudden you bring in this dark gothic character, you're like...
Yeah, like Darkman's there. Yeah. You're like, what?
Yeah, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
It's like the Justice League versus Power Rangers. That seems like, that sounds about right. But But Justice League Vertigo. Let's see, we had another question.
All right.
I thought this was kind of funny. Who do you think the least interesting or most annoying character is that's a mainstream character from Marvel or DC?
Wow.
Who do we need to offend here?
I'm going to tell you right now that historically, for me personally, the least interesting character that's a mainstream guy in Marvel has been Iron Man. I've never really dug it. at all. Like, I didn't go when the movie came out. I didn't go to see it in the theaters until like the 4th or 5th week when everybody's like, you have to see this movie.
Those movies are good, but you know what? Historically in the comic book, at some point, the Iron Man thing, it just sort of, for me, it sort of fell flat. I'll tell you, the guy they keep trying to reinvent in Marvel all the time, they have tried numerous, I don't even know what series it's on number-wise, but Moon Knight.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I loved when he was introduced to Werewolf by Night. I thought it was a cool little character. I mean, I thought that was a cool thing. It fit in with what was going on. But they have always tried to, like, continue that going, and it just never seems to work.
In his
Even
book,
David Finch, I mean, they get great artists and stuff on it.
Remember that guy?
did it for a while. I mean, it's like, what the heck?
Remember that guy that did it that was kind of a McFarlane guy, Stephen Platt?
Oh, Platt. Yeah, Platt was
stuff
introduced.
Was solid.
Oh, they were cool. Oh, yeah. I mean, we were all, I know I was. My eyes popped when I saw the Platt issues.
Yeah.
I can either, there were, 55, 56, 55 through 60. I can remember that. So there's, I mean, we're talking, you got to be kidding me. But yeah, they were really cool.
They were on Wizard's like top 10 books to watch. Remember?
Platt was, and he went on to do Prophet.
Yeah,
Platt was like the hot guy. Travis Cheris was doing stuff then. Those two guys had somewhat of I thought a similar style. I remember they were like, that was a buzz. There's Travis Cheris right there.
Yes, it is.
Batman 488. People.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
But
I'd go with that with Moon Knight for sure.
DC, it's always been Superman for me. I don't own a Superman comic book. I don't own one Superman comic book.
Yeah.
Sorry for all you Superman fans. I have nothing against Superman. I just don't own one Superman comic.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not a Superman guy.
I've not been a Wonder Woman person either. Now, the actress that plays Wonder Woman in the movie, I think, is a beautiful woman. And I've heard the movie. I didn't watch the movie, and all I've heard is great things about it. But Wonder Woman as a book, I don't think I have any Wonder Woman comics either.
Yeah.
Well, same with Flash. I mean, a lot of DC's main characters, other than Batman, I don't read any of them.
Yeah.
I have a box of Batman.
That reminds me of Saturday Night Live years ago. When they had the death of Superman, they did a sketch where it was Superman's funeral. And they had guys that came in that were dressed up like the Marvel characters and all that. They had Adam Sandler was dressed as the Flash. He came over and he's like, Superman could do all kinds of things. He could fly, he could freeze stuff with his breath. He could, me, I could just run fast. That's it, just run fast. And he could run faster than me, but he never brought that up. That's the kind of guy he was. That's the kind of guy he was.
I would say on more modern, there again, I'll probably offend a whole lot of people. Miss Harley Quinn.
Oh, yeah, I'm with you.
I have no desire to read anything that she's in.
What a blanket statement.
None whatsoever. Like I said, I know I'm going to offend someone. And there again, I'm not saying that the character couldn't be. It just seems like she's all over the place. She's funny, she's goofy, she's deadly, she's this. And, usually with Batman, you don't see a humor side to him.
Right.
Right. And with Harley, it just... no one's told me yet that you have to read this story. Does that make sense?
Right.
She's been around how long? How long's it been now?
Yeah, 25 years.
20-something, yeah. And no one has ever said, hey, stupid, read this. This will change your mind.
Yeah.
There hasn't been one book, one series.
Well, I think it's even fallen flatter because the movie, for me, was extremely disappointing.
I didn't see
everything about what she said in that movie felt like they were trying to make sure they had a T-shirt slogan. She thought she was
cliche. Every word she spoke was cliche.
My buddy Donnie just walked in, and I don't know if you know these guys, Gary and Wolz. Donnie actually won our contest with $100 worth of trades.
Then I'm with him today.
Donnie,
my new best friend Donnie.
We're recording the Elite Pro. We're recording the Calling All Heroes Comics podcast.
Sorry for walking in on
Oh, no, it's all good, man.
You're welcome. Jump
in, buddy.
Come on. Hey, we're ready to pull a chair for you.
Yeah, here you go.
Don't be nervous.
We're going to have...
I just came in to spend money.
Jump in here, buddy. Donnie actually has a YouTube channel, too. Does some reviews of movies and stuff. Some of that stuff, some superhero
He's got a wicked Mysterio tattoo on his arm, too.
Hey,
like
nice to meet you, Gary.
You too.
Well, it's a pleasure.
Maybe if you want to jump in on this last question we got off of Twitter, and it was, we were asked, of the mainstream DC and Marvel superheroes, who do you think is the most interesting or most annoying? And so far, our honorable mentions have included Iron Man, Flash, Superman. Feel free to argue. I mean, if you disagree.
I guess people we don't have much of an interest or we
Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn. Gary just said it, I quote,
and let it be said before you say anything, I did not mention Squirrel Girl one time.
Which I would say isn't quite mainstream, though. I mean, I'm thinking, like, you got to be, like, an Avenger.
You're talking big guns.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe, like, 5 people know who Squirrel Girl is.
Yeah.
And I think 4 of them are right here. So you said most interesting and most annoying.
No, least interesting.
Least
like who
interesting.
you could just drop off the map, or who you could care less to read.
Yeah, they keep trying to bring him back, or they keep trying to have these new series and reinvent them, and it's like, it just isn't working, and it's never worked, and it's probably never going to work.
Martian Manhunter.
Wow.
I don't know, like with DC in general, DC has really adopted this attitude in the past decade or so, I'd say, where basically if it's not Batman, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
And, correct me, I feel like the current Metal story they have going on is like the perfect example of that, where they have different versions of Batman from alternate universes. Like they have Doomsday Batman. Somebody at DC sat there and went, Doomsday, the guy who killed Superman, he's not dangerous enough. He's not intimidating enough. Let's make him Batman. And then he walked out with a bunch of money.
That's what I was alluding to, because I said the mess at Metal, because I thought it was a mainstream thing, and he's talking about that it might be like an Elseworlds thing, and I'm like, well, it's being sold as a mainstream, at least that's what my perception is.
Right.
And it's like, all of a sudden you're saying this isn't really Batman. This big event is not going to have any kind of significant effect upon the rest of the universe.
Yeah, they're not like clear on it, one way or the other.
Because we were talking about the last page. You read the first one?
Of Metal?
No, but I know what happens in it.
Yeah, the Sandman reveal.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering what Sandman has to do with the Justice League.
Something.
Yeah.
But like DC, they've adopted this attitude, and I blame it partially on the Christopher Nolan movies. As great as they were, they created this fan base where if it's not Batman, it doesn't matter. And
That's what happens when something's good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and DC played into it, and they have this whole universe. Like, I feel like I could like Martian Manhunter if they actually invested in him. I feel like I could like The Flash if they actually invested in him.
Right.
I guess that's the question.
In the animated series, I like Martian Manhunter, actually.
Right.
And I enjoy that. So I always enjoy that in the animated series anyway.
Like, they're practically giving the Green Lantern the finger in the past, since the Ryan Reynolds movie.
Yeah.
Which even before then, they were still...
Well, and Occupy Avengers, West Coast, what was the one? Great Lakes Avengers, The Avengers, The Uncanny Avengers, and the All-New Avengers.
You can throw the Avengers under the bus, really. I mean, it's
6 titles, though, a month. That means you're getting more than one Avengers book a week.
Yeah.
And it's because the movies made crazy money, and then that's what they did. Same thing when they went to release Doctor Strange. There were, at one time, there were 4 Doctor Strange miniseries and one-shots in the same week. Like, how big of a fan are we
other
here?
than the FF, I've never liked any team book. I've never been a big fan of Justice League or the Avengers. I just don't think it works. You're talking about Batman. Why he should be on the streets. He's a detective.
Right.
Why is he out fighting these cosmic characters that only Superman can take on?
Slow Night at Gotham.
Yeah, Slow Night, yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I've always enjoyed the X-Men. Justice League is okay. It's had its moments. And, everybody likes the Avengers now. One team I could never get into was Fantastic Four. I know you're a big Fantastic Four guy.
I am, and I pale in comparison to this man.
This man.
Well,
their heydays a long time ago.
The problem is, once it got past the heyday, it very seldom did it ever meet up. It just never met those.
The John Byrne one was really good.
There was some cool thing. I mean, there was some cool stuff. Well, we were just talking about. I mean, this right here, this 3-part series when they took over, that was great. I mean, that was a great.
It's had its moments. You know what I compare the FF to is Simpsons. First 7 or 8 years, man, were priceless, just priceless, and that allowed them to continue to make a mediocre show for another 15 years. And I mean, there's a lot of people who's going to hate that, especially coming from me. But it's true. At the heart of what I love about the Fantastic Four, and obviously you guys tell me if you disagree, but it's this family and their arguments and stuff. It's more to me about the Thing and the Torch, griping at each other over, Torch eating things, dessert out of the fridge, and these real family things that you can relate to. Then they also have powers.
Yeah, but the writers and the editors or whoever it is, the companies, they ruin these books because I don't know if you remember Kevin Maguire and JM, whatever his name is. They redid the Justice League back in the 80s.
Okay.
And right before that, they had like 4 characters like Steel or, that were the Justice League. I mean, 4 just absolutely no names to it.
Z-listers.
Yeah, Z-listers. And that's what they do. The FF is unique because they're family.
Right.
There is no other.
It's not
there
a
is
business.
no other Fantastic
Yeah,
Four.
but then they broke the family up there, with
Yeah.
the She-Hulk thing, and I was
But
like,
they-
Kirby the robot.
and
Wyatt Wingfoot.
And there I can see where you're going. Absolutely.
So my thing with Fantastic Four is like there's a lot of people who are hoping Fox cut some kind of deal with Marvel, like what Sony did with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, the thing is, Marvel could just get the movie rights to just Doctor Doom back, and nobody would complain about that.
Well,
Like,
here's the thing, though, is if they get the rights back to Fantastic Four, that also means they have the rights to the Surfer,
Right.
and Galactus,
Galactus.
and Inhumans in that realm. The very idea that they're going into Infinity War, if they were to pull out the Fantastic Four and Galactus, dude, that's it. Like, I don't need to see anything else ever again. Like, just give me that.
That's Doctor Doom, in my opinion, is like the only redeeming quality in Fantastic Four, at least for me.
Wow.
I love Doctor
Hey,
Doom.
man,
Yeah.
you got guts. Walk on the podcast.
Well, you know what, though, in his defense, though, if you look at the first 100 issues, they're great. They are great, and the characters that were introduced are great, and Doom is all through that, obviously.
Sure.
But the Inhumans, Surfer, Galactus, but once Kirby stopped doing the book, I mean, just...
Oh, it's not the same book anymore.
It was still pretty cool. It ran about another, I'd say, 30, 40 issues, and then it just started to dive. For
Well, you take Doom out of the FF, it's like taking the Joker out of Batman.
Yeah.
For sure.
It changes everything.
Yeah. And that's why when they want to do things with his movies, like in the one movie that came out in 2005, they want to ship him in the spaceship with them. Like, he got his powers the same time they did. You can't mess with the delicate balance of that story.
I got to tell you something.
Right.
Yeah. I fought it for a long time. I really did. I watched that movie. I liked that movie.
It was all right.
And the thing about it was, because it was the reboot of FF.
The newest
I'm
one?
not talking about the newest one. I'm talking about the 2005 one with Jessica Alba.
No, because I refused to watch. I know you refused to watch.
I watched it with Tim a couple weeks ago.
But I actually watched the
protests.
reboot. I watched the reboot, and it got such horrible reviews, and it's on TV. I'm gonna sit down and watch it. There are certain elements to it that I sort of kind of liked.
No,
because they implied they went to the negative zone.
Yeah.
I somewhat liked that.
The biggest problem with it was it would drop plot lines just out of nowhere and just act like they never happened to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Isn't that the one that changed Johnny Storm?
Yeah.
I don't even need to talk about that. I'm not even going there. Not even going there.
Yeah, my thing, I've always been a firm believer in the idea, if it's something you really, really love, like for me, Friday the 13th, they give me 2 minutes of gold, I'll sit through an hour and a half of crap.
That's what I'm saying.
As long as there's a couple little nuggets, because we're not dealing with 8 tracks anymore. We're not sitting there like having to watch something until it's over. I can skip to the part that was good.
Because the part of the movie when I thought, the implication was almost like the negative zone. I really thought Annihilus was going to come. In fact, Doom flew.
I love when Doom just started blowing everybody's heads up like a horror movie.
Yeah. But I really thought Annihilus was going to come rolling out. I mean, I for a second there, I'm like, this is not going to happen. This is not going to happen. But if it does happen, I would have been glad to sit through the whole thing. And because they even implied that, I give it somewhat of a little bit of a thumb. It wasn't a great movie, but I'm glad I watched it now.
Yeah.
Because
I hate the fact that we don't have an FF book.
Well, of course we.
And that they just keep dropping the ball on what could be an amazing property if they just gave it to people that know how to do it.
It's top 10. FF. I don't know where you would put it in the top 10, but it's top 10.
Yeah.
What do you think the top 10? Top 10 titles of all time.
Well, you got Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, Captain America, the Hulk.
Top 10 titles of all time really
X-Men.
Really goes with, I guess, I don't know. See, my top 10 is going to be completely different than everybody's.
But I mean, if you have to go with
one thing, but being objective about it,
right.
Well, I've always said it. I said Al Moore Swamp Thing to me is I can't find much better writing in comic.
No, but just characters.
Oh, characters.
Swamp Thing's not one of the top 10 characters of all time. No way.
These guys are getting ready to pull their sidearms out.
No, we're not pulling these sidearms out. I've always liked the bizarre. But that's been me.
Obviously, Wolverine himself is top 10 of all time.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
And speaking of the FF, like I said, I don't even know where to begin to somebody that we were talking about the guy that wanted to come in, John who wanted to come in, Jonathan who wanted to buy comic books cheap for a buck. To get introduced, well, he can read a lot of the FF, but it's not going to be anything that's going to leave a good taste in his mouth.
Right.
You know, it's been a long time since the FF has been.
I guess if I'm shooting up there, I'd put Spider-Man probably at the top.
Batman and Superman are the number 1 and 2 by far. They're as iconic as you can possibly get. You do not have to read comic books to know who Batman and Superman are.
If we're going on those terms, yeah, I mean, I would say if you're talking about most recognizable,
do you think people would struggle recognizing Spider-Man?
Spider-Man and Hulk are right there. Spider-Man and Hulk are right there because of the movies.
Yeah,
Superman and Batman have been iconic since the 40s.
Yeah. Sure,
since it came out.
I like Peter Parker because he's a regular guy. I mean, that's why I think it's cool.
Well, I think Superman is obviously,
and I think it's portrayed very well in the new movie too.
Yeah,
he's a regular kid.
Great.
He's a kid, and I love it.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And Captain America, obviously, you know, a lot of these guys go way, way back before, you know, what I would call the almost reboot of Marvel, and you know, in '61. You know, I mean, Human Torch, Submariner. These guys have been around.
What's interesting is Wolverine. I mean, Wolverine, I would say if you went around and polled people, I think you get a lot of hits on Wolverine. And I'll tell you what, he's a great character. He's always been a great character. But I think a lot of it's owed to Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
What a fantastic portrayal. I can't tell. Logan is one of the best movies I think I've ever seen.
I agree with that.
And in comic really. It's one of the best movies I've ever seen. But for the comic universe, you can't touch it. It's perfect.
So violent, which was perfect.
But that's what it should be.
At the end of the day, I think the ones that, and we've said this before, the ones that are the best are the ones that are true to the character. And Deadpool, that movie was true to that character.
Yeah.
You know, and to me, Christopher Reeve's Superman was true to who Superman is. Like, that's my Superman, in quotes.
Not my Superman.
No, it's not.
Hashtag not my Superman.
Yeah, it's not Donnie's Superman. Were you a fan of the Superman movie that came out right
Man
before
of Steel?
Superman? Yeah.
I mean, I don't love it, but I like it a bit more than what other people do.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the big argument with it is, that's not Superman. He's not acting like Superman. I'm always like, well, that's the point. That's why it's called an origin story. Because the whole point of the movie is the journey to where at the end he becomes Superman. The problem is with Batman versus Superman, where he's still like, I don't think I want to do this.
It's like where he's sitting in sweatpants, like moping around.
Right. That's where you
eating cereal.
You've touched on something too, where people like get disjointed about. People have preconceived notions about these characters. You know what? If somebody wants to do like an origin or twist it around a little bit, just be patient and watch it. You know, but some people are just like. I guess when all these movies started coming out, you know, there was somebody standing in the corner going, but you know, that doesn't quite. At that point, I just want to like, oh my God, I've waited all my lifetime for this kind of stuff. Just shut up for a minute and watch it.
Yeah.
You know, well, if they do it that way, I'm like, just stop. You know, reserve your comments for later. You know, it's like they're doing these things. You know, I never thought when I was a kid, I never thought I was going to see movies done like that, and especially as well done as they are.
Yeah.
You know, some are turds and some are, you know, gold nuggets. But I'm glad they're all out there, and you've said that. I'm glad it's all out there because you have the opportunity to experience.
Well, I know you're a Doctor Strange fan.
Absolutely.
Did you ever think in a million years they were going to be able to put that movie on the screen?
And you know what? And in the Marvel universe, it's a good movie. I think it's one of the better ones, actually. I was really worried about that because I was like, I hope this isn't a stinker because he's been my favorite character forever. And that movie was, I thought, excellent. Excellent movie. Even though the comic never seems to hold it. If you want to really read Doctor Strange, get a trade paperback of the Strange Tales stuff because those stories are really cool. And Ditko did most of them, and they're totally awesome, and they're neat, and they have cool characters in them.
Yeah.
Where Klee, Dormammu, I mean, all those, you know, all the characters came about. But they've tried to do several series. The Bacalo series was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
The first 20 issues of that book were awesome. That storyline, you know, the magic is being usurped. You know, that whole thing, you know, taken. That was super cool story. That's one of the best stories I've read in a while. Yeah, and now it's going to turn. Unfortunately, I hope it's not going to turn into a wah 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 wah.
Donnie, since this is your first time on the show, why don't you tell us some of what you're into? What are you reading? What do you like? What do you historically like?
Well, you know, I'm a big Spider-Man fan.
Yeah.
He shouted about the Mysterio tattoo. Spider-Man fan since, 3 years old. So that's number one for me.
And if you don't mind me asking, roughly how old are you now?
25.
All right.
I'm still 3.
Yeah.
That's what we are.
54 going on 6. So
25. I've always been more of a Marvel fan than DC, definitely.
Well, you're welcome at this round table.
Yes.
Or rectangular table.
Spider-Man, X-Men. You can't beat a good, Venom solo series.
Yeah.
Boom. It's my favorite new read out there.
I do like Batman.
Oh,
never
Spawn.
been much of a Superman fan. DC's had its moments with Batman and Green Lantern. Those are my really only go-tos for DC. As far as Marvel goes, I'll read just about anything, but the main ones are Spider-Man, X-Men. I do like Doctor Strange. I've gotten into him a bit more since that movie.
It's hard but it is hard. The original stuff, the Strange Tales stuff, is really cool. As far as there are some gems in some of the other volumes of Strange, but up until this new run with Bacalo on it, it's hard to find a lot of this stuff. I just think he's a great character. I like his character.
He's just a cool character that can exist in the universe in general. Yeah. He doesn't have to be relegated to his own title.
Right.
Well, I think that's one of the points here where we have Donnie who's 25 and I'm 55, and I've been collecting almost twice as long as you've been alive.
Yeah.
But that doesn't, I'm always interested in what you're reading. Introduce me to new stuff that I need to see, because I'll miss it. I'll look at it and sort of glaze over it. It's like, no, back that up there, Gary. You need to check that out,
Yeah.
I'm all for that. And that's why the readers or the listeners and stuff that we encourage them at all times. Please set us straight on things. You can agree or disagree and stuff, but if there's something more just totally missing the boat, send it out there and stuff, because it only helps the fandom, helps us all.
Well, I want to ask Donnie this: is there some kind of oddball book you like, or an oddball character, like something off the beaten path that you really dig?
I don't know. I guess the closest to that would be being a big Mysterio fan. You don't really hear a lot of Mysterio fans these days. He's kind of like most people, most casual.
I thought he was super clever character.
He's an awesome character, but if you were to go and ask the casual fan, most of them probably would not know who Mysterio is.